Hi there. Welcome to History in Retrograde. This is the podcast where we use the ancient art of astrology to help us better understand the past. I'm your co-host, Chandler O'Quinn, and joining me live via satellite is my mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Chandler. How are you?
I'm good. Are you ready to begin another grand experiment?
Absolutely.
All right, let's give it a whirl.
Okay, and I just want to say thank you to all the listeners all over the world and all over the United States. We're very excited to have you joining us.
Yes, it is very exciting. So happy to see how much this podcast is growing in such a short amount of time. Thank you all so much for listening and telling your friends about us. And for those of you who are new to the podcast, the way that it works is that in a moment, I will give the astrological birth data of a random historical figure to my mom. Now you, the listening audience, already know who this historical figure is. It is in the title of today's episode. I, of course, already know because I selected this mystery history guest, but Mom has no idea who this person could be. So I will give her the birth data necessary to create a chart. That is the birth date, time, and location of this random historical figure. She will then input that into the BAT computer, and out will come the natal chart, exactly where all the planets, moons, and stars were at the moment that person was born. She will then give us a blind astrological reading of the personality traits, characteristics, fortunes of this mystery history guest. I will ask a few discussion questions, and then I will reveal to her who our mystery history guest is. Give a little bit of background about the person, and then we will discuss how accurate the chart was at predicting who this person was. So without further ado, let's begin.
Okay.
This is a female.
All right.
Born on the 7th of May, 1919.
Ooh. All right. Do we have a birth time on this one?
We do. I'm not exactly sure how accurate it is, but I think it's better than nothing, so we'll go with 5:13 a.m.
All right. And where?
Argentina.
Ooh. Uh-huh. And town?
Los Toldos.
Okay. Buenos Aires. All right. Exciting.
So again, this is a female born May 7th, 1919, 5:13 a.m., Los Toldos, Buenos Aires, Argentina.
All right. Okay. Interesting. Ooh, okay. Wow. Definitely not a person to be messed with. Very Taurusy. Okay, so this person, I'm just going to start with the first house, okay, and having the ascendant is in Aries at 29 degrees, so that's right on the cusp of Taurus and Aries, okay, and that 29 degrees, as I always say, is known throughout astrology as the degree of sorrow. So interesting that it is the first house cusp. This person has Sun conjunct Mars in Taurus in the first house. So I would imagine that this person was, I would say, beautiful. having that first house in Taurus ruled by Venus, but could also have been Amazonian, kind of Amazonian. This would be a person who is very, very, very dedicated and very driven. If you can see that Sun is at 15 degrees and Mars is at 16 degrees, they are pretty much as close to exactly conjunct as they can be in that first house. So this person also, everything about their personality and how people see them, I would assume that this person would appear very driven, very focused on what they wanted to do. Okay. They also have Venus and Gemini in the second house. So this person would have loved beautiful things, would have had beautiful things, and would have, I would assume, had the means to acquire them, because having Venus in the second house gives you the benefit of material things. Having Venus and Gemini in the second house would have given this person an ability to communicate with people in a way that would have been, I want to say, almost magical. That this person is very capable of communicating love. I don't know. Okay. Third house is Cancer. And this person has Pluto at 4 degrees Cancer and Jupiter at 11 degrees Cancer. So not conjunct by exact degree, but definitely conjunct. And that Pluto conjunct Jupiter is powerful benevolence. And in this third house, which is communications, again, that's also like, wow, it's giving me chills right now to think about how powerful a communicator this person would have been. And like, I want to say like love, like communicating love. Very interesting. I mean, because that Cancer, with that Jupiter and Cancer with Pluto, they're powerful, benevolent, nurturing communication. Okay. Now we go to the fourth house, which is ruled by Leo, where this person has their Neptune, their Moon, and their Saturn. Okay. So, Neptune at 6 degrees 0, Moon at 20 degrees, Leo, I'm trying to say, Neptune at 6 degrees Leo, Moon at 20 degrees Leo, and Saturn at 21 degrees Leo. So that Moon and Saturn conjunct in the fourth house. That's something. Because the Moon and all of these planets in Leo are all about leadership in the home, leadership in your country, leadership in your community, some kind of leadership, okay, around home or community, home, country, all of these things. And it's lessons. Having that Moon conjunct Saturn is lessons in emotion and lessons from your mother. Saturn conjunct Leo would be maybe even controlling mother, or this person had control as a mother. But with Neptune there, that leads kind of an imagination, a dreamlike quality, like somehow, like, like I hear like Martin Luther King, I have a dream, like this person would have had a very emotional connection to home and country and their dreams for this. Does any of this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Then we have Virgo on the 5th house with no planets there. 6th house is Libra, no planets there. 7th house is Scorpio with no planets there. But 8th house is Sagittarius. So North Node in Sagittarius in the 8th house. Oh my Lord. Legacy as like riding into it, like very independent, but riding straight into it, whatever it is. And huntress, like, just that huntress soul, and legacy and inheritance, or also, 8th house is ruled by Pluto, which is power and death and rebirth. I'll come back to that. 9th house ruled by Capricorn. Interesting. That would have been a very dogmatic type of philosophy. Capricorn is very within the line structure for philosophies and structure for religion and structure. Lots of structure around those things. Then 10th house ruled by Aquarius with Uranus at 1 degree Pisces. So very late in the 10th house, the house changes to Pisces. But having Uranus in Pisces is also that very dreamlike, almost like you have this fantasy world dream of how you want things to be, but very humanitarian. And this is your career. Like, this is your goal in life. Like, you want to, very humanitarian and unexpected and unique and unusual and not the norm. Mm-hmm. Okay, just not normal. Not how people see this as normal. Almost like purposely being out there. Mm-hmm. Okay. The next house is the 11th house, and that is on that cusp is Pisces, and 11th house has Chiron there. But Chiron is in Aries, so it's very late where the house changes. The house kept changes in the 11th house. And that 11th house of Pisces is also very, all this dreamy creativity, this very driven to pursue the dream or the imagination, maybe very very creative. This person maybe was extremely creative in a dreamlike fashion, like to follow the dream. And having this Chiron in Aries would mean possibly having to deal with war, maybe in early life, and then, or all those Aries things, like having to deal with warlike things, or Amazonian behavior, or something along this line, where it was wounded healer, wounded by this warlike situation in groups and crowds, right? Because it's the 11th house. So it's warlike behavior in the 11th house of groups and societies and civilization, and then healing it, like healing this from that destruction. Am I still on track?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, good. Then 12th house, the house of karma, we have Venus. No, sorry, mess up. Never mind. Not sure what my mind went there. We have Mercury in Aries. So 12th house have, again, all of this communication ability. This person has great ability to lead through their communication skills. Their karma is to somehow communicate about warlike things.
Mm-hmm.
Aries, driven, the god of war, okay? So somehow this person karmically has to negotiate or speak about the war. I don't know. This is a very, very amazing woman.
Mm-hmm.
I would be in awe of her.
Mm-hmm.
I would truly just want to bask in this woman's energy. She is so intense, but in a way that is like nurturing and benevolent, but dangerous. Like she could be dangerous with her drive towards this dream existence that she wants to have happen. So yeah, that midheaven and Aquarius, Capricorn Aquarius, that's very humanitarian. Very her career is about humanity. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. What profession would you think this person should go into?
Well, I would assume, having that Aquarius on the 10th house, something that has to do with humanitarianism.
Mm-hmm.
Something that has to do with helping the people become better, more futuristic, more like unique ideas to help the people. I mean, she's born in 1919, so not sure how much power she could have at that point. But she has a lot of power, and she's definitely a leader in her community. So some sort of leader. I mean, she's very creative, but she has so much power. I wouldn't think she would be like a performer. I mean, she doesn't really have...
Why not?
I mean, she has Virgo on the 5th house, but I don't know. I mean, she's a very unique person. This is an extremely unique person. But she does have all those planets in Leo in the 4th house, which could be, which could give you that performance, almost childlike behavior. 3rd house, she has Pluto and Jupiter in the 3rd house. I don't know. I wouldn't see this person necessarily as as an actor, but I mean, maybe they could be. They don't have what I normally look for in an actor, you know, which is a heavy 5th house. They do have Sun conjunct Mars in the 1st house, which could make them very appealing, you know, to audiences.
Mm-hmm.
So possibly, but they could have it with this chart. If this person was merely an actor, I would think they would definitely use that to do the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
To help humanity. Like it's not enough that this person would just be an actor. I wouldn't think, but maybe they didn't follow that path.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very powerful person.
Mm-hmm. Who would this person be attracted to in a romantic partner?
A very manly man. Manly man. Mars and Taurus, are you kidding me? That's almost like a centaur. Like, that is a very manly man. So, yeah, very, very powerful, earthy man. Rawr. This man growls.
Can you tell anything about her finances?
I would think her finances were really good. I mean, she has Venus in Gemini in the second house. So I would think that her finances were very good.
And any ideas on how she would spend that money?
I would think she would spend it on everything she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I would think having Venus in the second house, but it is in Gemini. And Geminis are notorious for not so much about the stuff, but more about the cerebral things. You know, maybe books, like maybe she would have mountains of books, things like that. But I mean, Venus in the second house, even if it is in Gemini, normally means you have money to burn. I mean, I would think.
How would people react to her?
I think they would love her. I think they would adore her. I think that, well, I mean, she has Sun conjunct Mars in the first house. So she could be considered by, probably man, as very threatening. So, I mean, I would adore her. I think I would completely adore her. I would be mesmerized by her. But I think that she could make men uncomfortable with her amount of power and her cavalier way of using it. Like, this isn't something in that day and age that should be done by women.
And how would she feel about people?
I think she loves people very much. I think she's very dedicated to her home and her community and her country and her house. Her moon is in the fourth house, which makes in Leo, which makes her like a lioness in her home area. She does have Saturn conjunct her moon in Leo, so there's lessons for her to learn regarding her level of emotion around the home and the community. Does that make sense? She's also got that Neptune there, which makes her very dreamlike in this way that she leads. It's imagination and psychic ability and all of those things that are part of the cosmic realm.
Are there any other insights that you can get out of the chart that you haven't said already?
Well, I mean, she definitely has most of her planets in the bottom half of the chart. So I would say she was grounded, even though she has all this imagination. She was pretty grounded. Not so ethereal. That she's a very tangible person. She's very hands-on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think we are ready for our summary of what we found from the chart. So the first thing you said was beautiful and Amazonian. She's dedicated, driven, focused on her goals. She loved beautiful things. She had an ability to communicate with people in a magic way and communicated love to people. There's a powerful benevolence, nurturing communication, leadership in the community, in the nation, in the home. There are lessons with emotions. There's a dreamlike quality to her, bringing up something like Martin Luther King, I have a dream for people. There's a legacy, and that she rides straight into that legacy. There's a dogmatic philosophy, and religion is very important, a structure with religion and philosophy. A very humanitarian career. Humanitarianism is the goal in life. She is out there, and she is out there on purpose. Extremely creative in a dreamlike way. Something dealing with war. Warlike behavior with crowds, and healing the crowds with warlike behavior. Lead through communication. Communicate about war. People bask in her energy. A very humanitarian, helping the people to progress. Possible performance tendencies, but using acting as an ability to enable to help humanity. Attracted to a manly man. There are good things with finances. She has wealth, and she will spend it on whatever she wanted to. People, the crowds, humans, people would adore her. She loves the people. People love her, and she loves the people. And she is grounded, a hands-on person. Anything that I've left out?
I just want to say on that 11th house, that Chiron in Aries, the wounded healer. This is like experiencing what war might have been like, and then in turn, from that experience, healing the people from what they have been through in war.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant by that.
Okay. Well, would you like to know whose chart you've been reading?
Yes.
This is the astrological birth chart of Eva Perón.
Ooh, yes, I love her. She is a magical being.
This is, of course, one of the women who was portrayed by Madonna in the musical written by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. I promise we will get to all of Madonna's film roles through the course of the podcast. We'll be very interested in looking at the chart of Breathless Mahoney. But for now, we will tackle the life of Eva. So she was born Eva Maria Duarte on the 7th of May, 1919, in the Pampas region of Argentina. She was at least supposed to have the last name Duarte. That is what her father's name was. But she was an illegitimate child. So her father had a whole nother family in another town, and then in Los Toldos had this other family with several other siblings. This was he was a very successful rancher, but this family was not very well supported, grew up in very poor, destitute conditions in this rural region of Argentina. And after a few years, the father left to go back to the legitimate family and never returned and never helped out Eva's family. And there was a great stigma that her family grew up with. Lots of people considered Eva's mother to be a prostitute. And the family grew up hand to mouth. The mother would take in sewing just to try and make the ends meet. And through this very hard childhood, Eva had her eyes on the stars. She was completely captivated by the movies. She would go and see films anytime that she could. She would see the American films, the Argentine films, anything she could watch. And she had the goal in life. She wanted to be the Argentine Norma Scherer. And at the age of 15, she left her home and traveled to Buenos Aires to pursue her career in acting. This was a journey of 150 miles, but it might as well have been a whole nother world. Buenos Aires at this time was the second largest city in the Western Hemisphere, second only to New York. It was considered the Paris of South America. So to come from her rural, destitute conditions to this hub of culture and coffee shops and theaters and movie houses and all of it at her feet was truly life-changing. It was very hard the first years that she was in Buenos Aires, and but she was able to get some acting roles and started climbing her way up through stage roles and getting parts in B movies. And she eventually got onto radio plays and was on literal soap operas, so radio shows that were sponsored by soap companies. And she eventually got great success playing in a radio show called Great Women of History, where she would play people like Catherine the Great and Queen Elizabeth I. And all of this success put her on a collision course to meet one of the most powerful officers in the new Argentine regime, Colonel Juan Perón. In 1944, there was a traumatic earthquake that struck San Juan, Argentina. It disrupted the lives of thousands, killed, maimed hundreds of people in San Juan. And Juan Perón was the Secretary of Labor under the new regime. And so he took it upon himself to organize the relief efforts, to get donations and funds to go to the people of San Juan. And part of that organization was to hold this grand gala in which all of the biggest stars of Argentina would be there. And that is where he met Eva Duarte. Mm-hmm. They quickly hit it off. They were completely captivated by each other. And within a matter of days, Evita went to the home of Juan Perón, kicked out the mistress that was living there, sent her away, and she moved in. She was Juan Perón's mistress and moved into his apartment and moved into his life. She would serve coffee to the other officers who would come to hold their cabinet meetings in Juan Perón's office, and then she would just stay and listen and be a part of all of these meetings. And the other officers in the regime did not like and were quite threatened by this young woman listening in on all of these things, but they were too afraid to speak up to Juan Perón about this, and so she just stayed and listened in and would tell Juan Perón what she thought of what should be done for the people of Argentina. And Juan Perón quickly realized the power that she had with the people, that she could communicate his message to the people of Argentina. The followers of Juan Perón were called the shirtless ones. They were the common people. Perón set himself against the ruling class, the rich elites of Argentina, and that played right into Eva, as none of them ever gave her her due credit because she was an illegitimate child from the streets. So they formed this relationship together, and at least on Eva's part, was very much focused on benefiting the people, the common people of Argentina. So she started to, she got a role in a radio show that was created for her to dramatize what Colonel Perón was doing on behalf of the people. Everyone listened to the show, loved Evita, and the people in the government started to realize that Juan and Evita were becoming more powerful than they wanted. And so the president had Juan Perón arrested and put in prison, and all of Evita's contracts with the radio companies were disbanded. She had no more livelihood. She was completely kicked out to the streets, and no one wanted to have anything to do with her because she was linked to this now political enemy of the regime. And what happens next? There are a few conflicting stories. I'll give you the version first that is the more fantastic version, and the version according to Juan Perón and Andrew Lloyd Webber is Evita then mobilized thousands, 250, 350,000 people, the shirtless ones. She did it all on her own, organized these people to go to the capital, to go to the House of Government, and to demand that Juan Perón be released from prison. This, if anyone is familiar with the musical, is when she sings Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. Now, that's not exactly how we think it actually happened. That is something that probably Juan Perón created in order to capitalize on the popularity that she would later have. At this point, she's not even married to Juan Perón. She is just an actress, a very well-known actress who has a special magic with the people, but she was going door to door to supporters, and they were kicking her out and sometimes violently throwing things at her because they did not want to be the next to be put in prison. They didn't want to be the next ones to have the regime come after them. But there was this groundswell of support that came, and there were 350,000 people in the streets of Buenos Aires demanding that Juan Perón get released, and that is what happened. After Juan Perón was released, the next year he ran for president and won the presidency of Argentina, and Evita became the first lady of Argentina and gained even more fame than she already had. Upon becoming president, the regime in Spain asked Juan Perón to come on an official state visit. Juan Perón was very knowledgeable about how this would play on the international stage, did not want to be linked to the fascist Spanish regime, and so he decided to turn it down. Evita said, well, if you're not going to go, I will go, and I will show to the rest of the world what Argentina has to offer. And so she went on this whirlwind trip. It's called the Rainbow Tour to Europe. And so she went and visited Franco, Spain. And for those of you listening, I would like to report that Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead. So that's for all of you Weekend Update Chevy Chase fans out there. Original Saturday Night Live. So she went to see Generalissimo Francisco Franco, and she went all over Europe. She went to Italy, she went to France, she went to Switzerland, and because of Franco's politics, her reception was very conflicted. So once she actually got into a room with people, they were captivated just as the people of Argentina were. But Franco, this is after World War II, and Franco is the leader of Argentina, and Franco was very friendly to the Nazis who were escaping justice. And so Joseph Mengele and all these horrible war criminals were given a welcome, a home welcome to Argentina by Juan Perón. So all the people in Europe who had just gone through all of the horrors of World War II at the hands of these Nazi criminals linked Juan Perón and linked Evita to the fascists and to the Nazis. So there are some stories where she would go in and people would throw things at her, and people would throw tomatoes and rocks and things. Then there are other stories where she would go in Switzerland, and some of the people would throw things at her, but some people would come up to the carriage and say, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life," and be completely captivated by her. She would return to Argentina, and by this point, a lot of contemporaries and a lot of historians today would say that she was the most powerful woman in the world at this time. So she used this power to benefit the people. Humanitarianism was very important to her. At this time, the most powerful women's society in Argentina would automatically make the first lady of Argentina the president of their organization. At this time, because Evita was an illegitimate child, and they saw her as this woman from the streets, the Women's Society did not offer that position to her and did not let her into their society. So Evita made her own. She made the Eva Perón Foundation. She started it with 10,000 pesos of her own money, and within a few years had amassed 3 billion pesos. She employed 14,000 people, gave 400,000 pairs of shoes to needy people, 500,000 sewing machines given to families, 200,000 cooking pots given to families. Thousands of homes, hospitals, schools were all directly created because of the Eva Perón Foundation. Now, how all of this money was accumulated, it's a little iffy. Juan Perón, being the president and being very friendly to dictatorial regimes, would go into the trade unions and say, either you give this money to the foundation or we shut you down. Now, that is how the money was accumulated, but what Eva Perón decided to do with that money was very much her own decision, and the humanitarianism was very much on her own. So it is this mixed bag when you talk about Peronism in Argentina. But from her standpoint, she is using this money that may have been gotten through unsavory means to benefit the people the best that she can. She, talking about, the beautiful things, she had dozens of cars, dozens of furs, and the nicest dresses from the Parisian fashion markets, and the nicest jewelry, and everything that you could imagine. The people just absolutely adored her. She would have her office in the capital, and the people would wait hours, lines stretching across the block, for their moment to meet with her, and then tell her what they needed, and then she would write a check right there to them to get that to them. She would go into hospitals and she would kiss the lepers. She would hug the infirmed people, all these people with all their ailments, and people would say, "You shouldn't do that. You'll get sick yourself." And she would go right in there and embrace the people, and the people embraced her right back. She also used her power to other political means. She transformed the status of illegitimate children in Argentina, saying that they could no longer be called illegitimate, that they would now be called natural children. And she was pretty important in the gaining of women's suffrage in Argentina, and the foundation of the first all-women's party in Argentina. And the way that she put it was, a lot of these husbands and a lot of the people, a lot of the men in Argentina were upset that their wives and daughters were out in the political arena now. But she said that in order to progress, some men may need to get used to cold stew. Her popularity soared, and in 1951, the people want to draft her to be the vice presidential candidate. So Juan Perón and Evita Perón would be president and vice president of Argentina. There was a rally where over 2 million Argentinians gathered to clamor for her to become the vice president, to run as vice president of Argentina. Fate intervened and she had to decline that offer. She was beginning her road on a very horrible illness. So she was diagnosed with cervical cancer, but this was hidden from her. The doctors told Juan Perón, and Juan Perón did not tell her the disease that she had. Throughout this time, she continued working long hours, giving all that she could to the people of Argentina, still the long hours in her office of people lining up to meet with her. She would continue this downward trend through the disease, and she would eventually, Juan Perón would have surgeons give her a lobotomy so that she couldn't recognize the pain that she was under. Perón was reelected the next year, and one of Evita's last public appearances was at the inaugural parade. At this time, she weighed 75 pounds.
Oh, my Lord.
They strapped her to be upright standing in the car because she was unable to support herself. So they strapped her to the car, and she waved to the people, and the people had no idea. I mean, they understood that she was somewhat sick, but had no idea how close to the end she was. She passed away on July 26, 1952 at 8:25 p.m. The news broadcasts for the next several years changed when they would broadcast the news. They would usually go on at 8:30, but for the next several years they would go on at 8:25 to remember the moment that Evita passed away. Her funeral was attended by 3 million people. Hundreds were injured, 8 were killed in the rush to see where she was buried and the rush to see her body and pay their final respects to her. Juan Perón knew the influence of Evita over the people, but actually at the funeral said that he didn't even know that they loved her this much. Flowers were sent in from all over the country, from all over South America, to remember this, who Juan Perón actually named the spiritual leader of Argentina. Evita's legacy would go on for decades, would be used as a political rallying cry by the people who supported Perón and were against the dictatorial military regimes of Argentina. And her legacy continues to be known to this very day for her humanitarianism and how much the people of Argentina loved her.
I'm very emotional right now. This was a beautiful, beautiful, magical person. Yeah. Wow. Like an angel.
Immediately following her passing, the people of Argentina urged the Pope to make her a saint.
I'm sure they did. She was saintly, whether he did it or not. Did he do it?
I don't think he did.
I'm pretty sure he did not. But it's okay, because she's an angel anyway. So, I did not know this many things about her. I mean, I knew kind of what, they teach us in school, but you have really done a wonderful job, Chandler, telling this story. It's a beautiful, beautiful story about an incredible person.
Well, are there any other things in the chart that make more sense now that you know who it is?
Yes, there are. Having the Saturn conjunct Moon lessons with the mother. And also, she never had any children.
Right.
So also, that situation with her being sick and not being able to have children, it's all very sad because, oh my Lord, she would have been an incredible mother, but she was too busy mothering an entire country.
And that's what she said. She said that the poor and the destitute of Argentina are her children.
My Lord. Yeah, she is very, very, very amazing. And I mean, just looking at her chart and understanding what kind of person this was, it's a very, very magical chart. It's very clear what she was destined to do, and she clearly did it with vigor and gusto and her entire soul.
There's a whole nother aspect about her life being that, well, I guess not necessarily her life, but what happened to her after she died, that Juan Perón knew the symbol that she was, and so made sure that her body was embalmed in a way to where she would be the young 30. She was only 33 years old when she died. Would be this person forever and would always be linked to him. And so had this special I get funeral, whoever does embalming, mortician come in and do a whole special process on her, and the body was preserved, but very quickly Perón came out of favor, especially with the military, and with no longer having Evita there, he was forced to flee the country, and would spend the rest of the 20 years in Spain. And the government figured out that the mortician had the body and did not want her body to become this great piece of a symbol for being against the military regime. And so they found the body, and they stuck some government guy to go get it, and he put it in this bakery truck, and he was going to go bury it in an unmarked grave in a cemetery.
Oh,
and
how horrible.
so he gets to the cemetery, and he decides that he's sleepy, and so he takes a nap. And when he wakes up, there are flowers and candles all around the truck. And the body's still in the truck, and so he goes and he drives to another cemetery. And the next night, again, he sleeps in the truck, and when he wakes up, there are flowers and candles everywhere. So he decides, he drives back to his office, and he sticks the body in the attic of his office, and it stays there for a year.
Oh, my.
And then the government finds out about this and they fire him and they send the body to Milan, Italy, and it is buried in under a different name in Italy for many years. And then, but Evita's memory had so taken the people of Argentina that her last speeches were used as rallying cries for decades, and images of her, which the government had said, you can no longer have images of her. You can no longer, if you say the name Perón, you will be arrested. And so the supporters, completely captivated by her memory, eventually held, I don't exactly remember what they hold for ransom, but they get the Argentinian soldiers, the military, to reveal where her body is, and the body is exhumed and then sent to Juan Perón in Spain. And there it is kept on the dining room table of their house. And it is
okay.
And it is Juan Perón's wife who has to, she brushes the hair of Vita every morning.
Oh my!
And then the Peronistas come back into power in Argentina in 1973, and Juan Perón is brought back as president, and he becomes president in Argentina, and he leaves Evita's body in Spain. So then there is a whole nother thing where they hold one of the former president's bodies ransom so that they could get Juan Perón's wife to get the body from Spain back over to Argentina. And when Juan Perón dies in 1974, there is a public ceremony where Evita's casket is held open and Juan Perón's casket is closed, and it is supposed to be in a state mausoleum there, but then Argentinian politics being what they are, the Juan Perón's wife is ousted out of government, and they decide that with Evita's body, they will give it and put it into the family burial plot, and it is buried like some 25 feet underground under cement. It can no longer be taken out anymore, and that gravesite in Buenos Aires is decorated with flowers every day to this very day.
Wow, that is a very dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
She might be the most popular corpse ever.
Yeah, and to and it speaks, the story isn't just trivia. I mean, it speaks to the power that she had when she was alive, the power that she had over the people and the threat that she posed to people who opposed her.
That is, it's amazing that her journey was so short and that she only lived 33 years to be an archetype.
Mm-hmm.
She's way beyond an actress or a politician. She's literally an archetype, which is amazing.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you'd like to add about the reading that we've done today?
I think this is the most emotional reading we've done. And I feel so taken with her and so sad that this is how her life was. But at the same time, sometimes people are sent just for a short period of time to do what they have to do.
And I do
engage the world.
I again want to add one more thing that I found out, that when the anti-Perón people came into power, they found all of the furs and all of the diamonds and all of the cars, and they took pictures of it and they showed it to the people of Argentina as a sign of, look, this woman was not so humanitarian. She had all of this wealth and all of these fancy things. And at a certain point, they found Evita's will, and she had willed all of the cars and all of the furs and all of the diamonds to be given to the people of Argentina.
I cannot. I can't even. I'm mesmerized by this woman. What a wonderful, wonderful, angelic soul. And to have started out with such difficulty. But, that's a lot of times how it works for an archetype. The hero's journey. What an amazing, phenomenal woman.
Well, absolutely. And I think on our scale of right on the money to way out in outer space, this chart is right on the money. This is absolutely who Evita was. The humanitarianism, the power, the magic that she had with people, all spelled out in the stars when she was born.
It's so beautiful. This is my new favorite. This is my new favorite episode. I don't know what's going to top this one, Chandler, but this one's really my new favorite.
Well, that concludes this episode of History in Retrograde. I'd like to thank you all for listening. And if you like what you hear, please like, share, subscribe to the podcast. We also have an opportunity, if you really, really like us, we have a PayPal account. The link is in the description of the episode, and anything that you could give would be very much appreciated. It would help us with getting better equipment, providing better quality shows to you, and growing our audience in the future. So if you like what you hear, consider giving us whatever you can. And, well, I think in conclusion, as long as your stars are aligned, your houses are in order, everything will be just fine. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. We love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Salal Creek Studio.